Ever feel like you're stuck? Like you're stuck in a rut, held back by self-doubt?
Mm.
Or maybe like the fear of what other people think?
Oh, yeah.
You, my friend, might need a dose of the courage to be disliked.
I love that book.
We are diving deep into Adlerian psychology, and trust me, this isn't like your typical self-help pep talk.
Right.
This is different. This stuff is radical and refreshing and could, like, actually change your life.
Yeah, you're right. It's not your average self-help book. It's like it's set up like a conversation.
Yeah.
It's almost like a philosophical debate between like this young guy who's like wrestling with all these anxieties and then this wise philosopher who's introducing him to all of Adler's ideas.
Yeah.
But don't let the format fool you.
Yeah.
The insights are incredibly powerful.
Okay, so let's break this down.
Hmm.
Imagine, like, feeling inferior.
Yeah.
Like you're just not good enough. Most of us would say, yeah, we've all been there. But Adler says that feeling, it's not something to be ashamed of. It's actually the key to growth.
Yeah, and that's where this whole idea of teleology comes in.
Okay.
And it honestly like blew my mind. So instead of, getting stuck in the past, what Adler calls etiology, this approach says that your past doesn't have to define you.
Okay.
It's your present goals that shape who you become.
So, like, instead of me, like, dwelling on a presentation that I messed up, like, last year, you focus on your goal for the next one, which is to crush it.
Exactly.
So, like, your nervousness, that feeling of, I need to step up my game, it could actually be a good thing. It motivates you to improve.
Exactly. The book talks about this, like, distinction between a healthy striving for improvement and then, like, getting trapped in an inferiority complex. It's like we all have this, like, potential within us, this desire to be better, but it's how we channel that desire that makes all the difference.
And sometimes we get stuck.
Yeah.
I know I do.
Right.
The book uses this great example of the philosopher himself. He was, like, super self-conscious about being short.
Right.
And then a friend points out that his height actually, like, puts people at ease because he doesn't seem intimidating. Total perspective shift.
Totally. It's like our fears and insecurities can totally distort our perception of reality.
Yeah.
Like that story in the book about the guy with the stutter in the reading group.
Oh, yeah.
He was terrified to speak up, convinced everyone was judging him. Turns out they were more focused on the text than on his stutter.
So our brains kind of have this annoying habit of making mountains out of molehills.
Totally.
We psych ourselves out. But here's where things get really interesting. Adler says one of the biggest things holding us back is this constant need for approval.
Yes. He calls it the desire for recognition.
Okay.
And it's something that, like, we're all susceptible to.
Yeah.
We want to be liked. We want to be respected. We want to be admired. But constantly chasing after that external validation, it just keeps us trapped.
So how do we break free?
Yeah.
This is where that, like, very bold title comes in. The courage to be disliked. It sounds kind of harsh, right?
Yeah, it does.
But it's not about being a jerk.
Right. It's about recognizing that you cannot please everyone all the time.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's about staying true to your own values and principles, even if it means ruffling a few feathers along the way.
Easier said than done, though, right?
Right.
Like, what if my choices disappoint someone important to me?
Yeah.
How do I deal with that guilt?
That's where one of the most practical and, in my opinion, life-changing principles of the book comes in: separation of tasks.
So separation of tasks, kind of like a mental decluttering tool for your relationships, right?
Totally.
You get to, like, clear out all the unnecessary emotional baggage that's weighing you down.
Yeah, it's about asking yourself, like, whose task is this?
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. You can only control your own actions and your own reactions.
Right.
The book gives this, like, fantastic example. Imagine your parents disapproving of your career choice.
Okay.
Their reaction, that's their task. It's not yours to fix, and it's not something that you should feel guilty about. Oh, that's so powerful. It's like I can still love and respect my parents even if they don't, like, understand my decisions.
Exactly.
I don't have to, like, bend over backward to get their approval.
Exactly. And this principle can be applied to, like, almost every kind of relationship, right? Like a demanding boss or a friend who's constantly venting or, even your romantic partner. It's about setting healthy boundaries and taking ownership of your own happiness.
So if we're not trying to please everyone and we're setting boundaries, are we just supposed to, like, live in isolation?
Not at all. This is where, like, Adlerian psychology, like, really shines. The ultimate goal is to build a deep sense of belonging, what the book calls community feeling. But it's not about shrinking yourself to fit in.
So it's not about being, like, a people pleaser. It's just about, like, this is where it gets really fascinating. Yeah.
Adlerian psychology isn't about, like, individualistic freedom. It's about recognizing that you're actually part of a larger whole.
Exactly. It's about realizing that you're not the center of everyone else's world.
Oh, okay.
The book uses this amazing analogy. Imagine a globe, right?
Okay.
There are infinite centers. Every single point on that globe is the center from its own perspective.
So wait, so I'm not the center of the universe.
You are not.
That's a good thing.
It's a very good thing.
That's pressure.
Exactly. It helps you to let go of that need to be the center of attention, to control everything and everyone around you. Because, the truth is, everyone has their own perspective. Everyone has their own journey, their own center.
This reminds me of that scene in the book where the philosopher talks about how, different maps of the world put different countries at the center.
Right.
But on a globe, every point is the center.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful way to think about it. And that understanding, that recognition of everyone's unique perspective, it's crucial to, building genuine connection.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, understanding how our past doesn't define us, separating tasks, and finding our place within a community. But what about happiness? How does Adlerian psychology view happiness?
This is where Adler, challenges conventional wisdom, right? He says, forget about chasing some distant goal or, waiting for things to fall into place before you can be happy. Happiness, according to Adler, is the feeling of contributing to something larger than yourself.
Okay, so it's not about, self-sacrifice or martyrdom. It's about finding meaning and purpose in how you impact the world, even in small ways.
Exactly. Whether it's your work or your relationships or simply the way that you interact with your community, it's about actively engaging with the world and making a positive contribution.
This reminds me of what the book says about work. It's not just about, earning money. It's about contributing to society.
Yes.
And, finding your place in the community.
Yes. And the same goes for relationships.
Yeah.
It's not about extracting validation or fulfilling your needs. It's about showing up authentically and contributing to the well-being of those around you.
So instead of asking, what am I getting out of this?
Yeah.
We should be asking, how can I contribute?
Exactly. And that shift in perspective can be profoundly transformative. It can lead you away from a self-centered, anxious existence and toward a more fulfilling, connected life.
It's like shifting from a life focused on taking to a life focused on giving. But this all sounds a bit serious, a bit heavy. Does Adlerian psychology have anything to say about, enjoying the journey, finding joy in the everyday moments?
Absolutely. The book uses this beautiful analogy of, life as a dance, not a race to the finish line.
Okay.
It's about finding meaning in the process, not just reaching a destination.
I love that. It's about savoring the steps, not just, obsessing over the trophy at the end.
Exactly. And, it's interesting that the book talks about, spending time in nature as a way to practice focusing on the here and now. Just, observing the trees, the sky, feeling the breeze. It's a simple but powerful way to reconnect with the present moment.
Yeah, it's like hitting the reset button on life. Shifting from this, constant striving to a place of just, being present.
Yeah.
I can see how, connecting with nature could really, really help with that.
Absolutely. It allows you to tap into that living energetically concept. I think we briefly touched on it earlier. It's not about forcing yourself to be happy, but rather finding that state of flow.
Yeah.
Being fully immersed in the present moment. And maybe, just maybe, that's where true happiness emerges.
So it's about embracing the journey, not just the destination.
Yes.
Finding joy in those everyday moments. I can get behind that. This whole courage to be disliked thing. Yeah. I mean, that's part of the journey too, right?
Yeah.
It's not always going to be smooth sailing.
Exactly. And that's where the real courage comes in. It's about accepting that life is messy, it's unpredictable, and that's okay. It's about not trying to control everything, but rather learning to dance with the ups and downs.
It's even finding the courage to be disliked is a step in the dance.
Totally.
It's part of what makes life interesting.
That's such a great way to put it. And it just reminds us that we always have a choice in how we respond to the world around us. We're not just victims of circumstance. We have the power to choose our response.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground today. Understanding how our past doesn't have to define us, separating tasks, finding our place within a community, and even discovering how happiness can be found in contributing to something larger than ourselves.
Yeah, it's a lot. And the best part is, this isn't just some abstract philosophy. This is about taking these ideas and actually living them out in our daily lives. It's about making small conscious choices that gradually shift our perspective and lead to a more fulfilling life.
So for you listening, here's something to chew on. The book mentions that it takes about half your lifetime to really truly integrate all of Adler's ideas. So if you could pick just one principle from The Courage to be Disliked to start using today, what would it be?
Yeah, think about what resonated most with you. What change are you ready to make?
Maybe it's like letting go of that need for approval or finally setting those boundaries that you've been putting off. Whatever it is, remember, you have the courage to choose happiness, to embrace freedom, to dance with life just as you are. And hey, maybe grab a copy of The Courage to be Disliked while you're at it. Your future self will thank you.